So let's look at 10 things that you can do if your labor stalls. So one of the things that I need to preface before we dive into this video is that labor stalls are not necessarily a bad thing. We don't want our labors to be fast and furious all of the time. In fact, with a physiological labor, so a labor that has started spontaneously by itself with no intervention, so not like an induction process, we can expect and really want to lean into those breaks and pauses. Not only are they a fantastic opportunity for mama to just take some time to rest, to allow her body to recoup. Maybe it's to refuel, to rehydrate, to get back into bed for a little bit. But also it's a really lovely indication that maybe our baby needs a little bit of a rest, a little bit of recoup, a little bit of a moment to catch their breath, so to say. And so this is why I'm not totally gung-ho for if labor begins, we want to keep it going, we want to be doing the squats, we want to be out walking, we want to be getting this baby out as fast as possible. This is why I'm very much pro, let's take our time. We are not in a rush. If baby is well and mama is well, we are not trying to get this baby out any faster. So that's the first thing that I will say, that these physiological pauses are often there for a reason and that rest can be hugely beneficial. So let's talk about the things that if perhaps you are maybe on the hospital timeline or perhaps you are just feeling totally exhausted, you may think that maybe perhaps it's positional or you are being advised by your healthcare provider that we need to get things moving. What things can be holding your labor up, what things can be causing these stalls in the first place, and how we can help to support that physiological process to unwind. So the first thing is kind of in line with what I was saying, but it's rest. Sometimes our bodies are telling us to take a pause in the way that our contractions have taken a break. So that might mean, you know what, we're going to get back into bed. I'm just going to pretend this has never started. I'm going to get into my bed, maybe in a nice exaggerated side lying position where our leg is kind of up over our belly. We are feeling well supported and we're just trying to close our eyes and relax our bodies as much as we can between those surges. Sometimes our bodies just need rest, and that is all we need before it is re-energized and able to get up and the labor process to begin again. Equally, we're talking about making sure that we can find those restful positions between surges. So much work takes place when we are having those little breaks between our contractions and being able to just completely melt our bodies into the earth, whether you're leaning into a beanbag, onto your birth ball, on all fours, into your partner's arms. All of these positions mean that you can really conserve your energy for when you truly need it, but also send all of that beautiful, nutrient-rich, oxygenated blood down to your baby to give them the pause that they need to continue with that powerful labor. The next thing that I want to talk about is removing the stressors. If you've taken my complete empowered birth course, you already know all about the impact of the hormones that come into our birth space and how our body is really flooded with this cocktail of hormones that bring labor about. However, some of these hormones are less welcome than others, and our body can't tell the difference between a lion chasing us and it being an unsafe place for us to birth our babies and the barrage of new faces in the hospital, all of the questions, the bright lights, the chemical smells. And so sometimes what happens is our body goes, oh, I don't like this. Let's just shut things down for a period of time. This doesn't feel safe for me. And with that real drive of, kind of adrenaline and the interference with our body's natural labor accelerators, we need to be thinking, okay, how can we remind our bodies that we're okay here? And sometimes that's just about finding privacy. It's about creating some editing to our birth space. How can we help our bodies to find that sense of feeling completely uninhibited and safe in our birth space? That might mean creating privacy, putting a little sign on the door that says, "Hypnobirthing couple in here, knock before entering." Maybe it's about shutting down the lights. We know that melatonin is the friend of oxytocin, which is the driver and the accelerator of our labor contractions. So we're dimming the lights, we're finding nice, soft, warm lighting. Melatonin works with oxytocin to encourage those labor hormones to continue to progress and those contractions to come back more powerfully. We also have to think about privacy here. So yes, putting a sign on the door, but also who is in the birth space, that immediate birth space? Do they help you to feel good? Do they help you to feel supported? Do we maybe need to do a little bit of editing here and maybe ask for a different care provider? Maybe you just haven't been jiving with the midwife who's in the room, and it is so okay. You're not going to be friends with everyone. Not everyone is going to be your person. And knowing that you can ask for somebody different right up until your baby's born is so okay and a part of your birth preparation. I want to make sure that the people who are in the room are people I feel safe with. And looking at that in view of labour stalls can be really powerful. So the next thing that you can do is to turn on that relaxing playlist that you have created, whether it is music or your own hypnobirthing tracks. If you've already checked out the ones on my website, or if you haven't already checked them out, I'll leave them linked down below. But coming back to the things that help us feel good, if that's getting up and having a little boogie, if that's your uplifting playlist, your relaxing playlist, leaning into sound as that anchor for relaxation can really help you to progress during a labour stall. The next thing is changing positions. We've already spoken before about upright, forward, open positions and how our pelvis is not a fixed entity and how we actually want us to be able to move through our contractions, to be able to encourage baby to spiral through the pelvis smoothly and easily. And so if you found yourself in a fixed spot, you've maybe been in the one position for a period of time, it might be worthwhile taking the nudge from your birth partner, your doula, your midwife, to get up and maybe alternate your positions every 20 minutes or so. You're thinking on the toilet, on the birth ball, on all fours, side lying, getting up and squatting and dancing and moving through your contractions not only make them much more manageable, but can also help to, with gravity, create that pressure of baby's head on the cervix, which gives us that lovely feedback loop where the oxytocin receptors are awake and alert and fizzling, and our contractions can come back in a much more powerful way. So the next thing I've created is a whole separate point, but it's dimming the lights. Dimming the lights, full stop, whether that means cutting them off altogether, or perhaps if you are at home, you can have just fairy lights or your salt lamp going. But in the hospital environment, you can also they will always have a light that comes down from the ceiling in case any suturing or stitches are required post-birth, and you can just turn that to face the corner of the room. Turn off those main bright artificial hospital lights. Have those other little lights going. I also recommend coming into the hospital with Paris Hilton style wraparound sunglasses. They are a fantastic way to keep your melatonin high, which, like we mentioned, is the friend of oxytocin. So you're going to be putting the key into the ignition with the oxytocin first to encourage those lovely labour surges to come back in a nice, powerful way. So dim the lights, turn off those main ones. The next tip to get labour going again is hand expression or breast massage. When we look at what we can do to create an oxytocin conducive environment, breast massage, hand expression, and or mutual or self-pleasure can create a beautiful way for you to have that lovely spike in natural oxytocin. And it's a great way for you to avoid the synthetic oxytocin or pitocin drip, which of course is not natural. It's not your physiological body responding to labor and can result in much more painful contractions. I've also, in view of that point regarding privacy, never seen a room cleared faster than when my client pulled out her vibrator. So pop that into your birth bag. The next one is to take a shower. Not only by entering into the shower are you giving yourself that nice little bubble or cocoon of privacy and of safety and allowing yourself to feel completely uninhibited, but utilizing the power of water and hydrotherapy encourages our body, our muscles to relax, which creates that softness for baby to then better spiral through the pelvis. So movement, being upright, maybe bring your yoga mat and your birth ball into the shower itself so that you can be seated if your legs are very tired, but allowing the water to just flow over you, and the power of the hydrotherapy can really encourage things to crack back on and your contractions to come back in a much more powerful way. The next thing is hydration and nutrition. You would never run a marathon without having a decent breakfast first and making sure that you were bringing, your little gel sachets or your water bottle with you. Birth is a marathon, labor is a marathon, and we need to make sure that we are fueling our body appropriately for that. I always say at the start of labor, when you feel like things might be happening, that's when you want to be making sure you're prioritizing a decent meal, something that has fat, fiber, and protein. So it's going to support all of your body's nutrient requirements. And then as labor progresses, you might not feel quite so much like eating, but having something small, a one-handed snack, something that is easy to nibble, that is going to keep you well fueled, is a fantastic idea. Another thing that I recommend all my clients do is to make up a labor cocktail or a labor aid drink, something that is going to help to replace the lost potassium, sodium, and magnesium that we release when we sweat and when we work hard. And when our body is working hard, we need to make sure we are replacing all of those lost electrolytes. So there are all sorts of lovely recipes out there. I have one that I give out to my clients. If you've been joining me on the Empowered Birth course, you'll already know all about it. But you can also buy pre-bought electrolyte replacing sachets. Element is a really nice one. I think there's Water Drop is another one. Making sure that there's one that's also got a little bit of sugar, and if not, adding a little bit of honey or maple syrup, because you will need those natural, easy to digest carbohydrates to keep our muscles well fueled. Not forgetting that our uterus is that beautiful bag of muscle that needs support too. And the last point for this video that I want to mention is getting to the bathroom nice and frequently. Because of the proximity of the bladder to where our baby is coming through the pelvis, a really full bladder, so if you're not peeing nice and frequently, can actually obstruct your baby's way. Similarly, if you have a very full bowel, if you've been very constipated, or you haven't been able to go to the bathroom to really clear the bowels out before labor began, going into the bathroom, having some time to maybe dim the lights while you're in there, make that part of your labor space, and clearing the way can make there be much more space available for baby to come through. And actually, with the use of gravity and sitting in that upright position, things can really take place as well. One of the things that's really beautiful about being in the bathroom is not only does it immediately mean you're going to have some more privacy, but it's also somewhere where our body immediately thinks about relaxing the pelvic floor, that lovely sling or hammock of muscles that holds all of our bits and pieces in place, but in particular where our baby is going to be navigating through, needs to soften. Our pelvic floor needs to yield in order for our babies to be born. And so going into a space where your body will naturally do that is a fantastic way for us to overcome a labor stall. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know if any of these things were useful for you if you experienced a stall during your labour.